Have you ever wondered whether the problems in the world today would exist if we had deeper connection to ourselves, others, and the environment and acted from that place?
Welcome to the Conscious Action Podcast with your hosts Brian Berneman and Kayla Greenville, who believe that connection is the key to taking conscious action as individuals and creating a better world.
We are here to raise awareness and inspire meaningful action by sharing stories, knowledge, and conversations with thought leaders and change makers.
From sustainability to well-being and everything related to conscious living, our mission is to empower you to be the change that you want to see in the world. Welcome everyone to a new episode of the Conscious Action Podcast. I am Brian Berneman, your host, and for this episode I have the pleasure to be joined all the way from Florida in the US by Miranda Mitchell. Thank you, Miranda, so much for being here. I'm so looking forward to this conversation, especially based on our previous conversations. And for everyone that is listening, who is Miranda?
Who is Miranda? Great question. So I always introduce myself as an energetic alignment coach and human design specialist. I really focus on the energies of who we be, the energies that we put out there, and the energy of who we are authentically. So it is my mission to actually connect with as many people as possible and helping them learn on their energy so that they align so that we can help humanity.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I have so many follow-up questions from that. But first, can you share a little bit about your own journey? How did you get into all of this?
Yes. Well, I've had a long journey. So I am a manifesting generator, I will say. So I have learned that I am here to live many lifetimes in this lifetime. And I have done that. So it all began really as a kid. I moved out when I was 14. And the reason is we had a very big family. We lived out in the boondocks with basically off-grid, and of course, as a 14-year-old, I wanted more. So I moved out at 14. I lived with friends. I ended up partying a lot, getting into a lot of trouble. And I found myself going from one toxic experience to another. At that point in time, I was just trying to make my life fulfilled, or I felt like I just wanted to connect with people, so I was just living in the moment, but I wasn't aware of who I was or anything. So fast forward a long time, there was a lot of things that occurred that kept proving to myself that I wasn't worthy. I wasn't good enough. I didn't deserve love. There was many instances of domestic violence. There was alcoholism. There was drug use. There was promiscuity. There's just all of the things I just kept finding myself into. And then I realized when I had my first son, I will say that my kids saved my life. I think they were given to me for a reason. My first son helped me ground and gave me the awareness that there was purpose. He gave me a purpose in life. So I started to take care of him and do things differently, and still continued on the path of, yet again, domestic violence and all of that stuff. But I realize now through my experiences of finding yoga first, it gave me the opportunity to slow down, really tune into what I was doing with my life and what I was not doing with my life. It made me shift my perspective in what I wanted my life to look like. And I made these hard decisions. I ended a 10-year relationship. I started to focus more internally. And then from there, I found coaching, and I wanted to coach others because I felt amazing through all my learnings. And then from coaching, I found human design, which is really, I say, it's the bow on the present, because I had realized that all of those traumatic experiences and things that occurred for me were actually in my chart. And it gave me, it gave me an affirmation, or it gave me an affirming feeling that everything in my life happened for a purpose, which I always knew, but I didn't quite knew I knew. Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely. And it's really interesting, and thank you for sharing. Especially, a lot of times it's hard for people to share their negative experiences, especially if there was any kind of abuse or anything. And I always encourage people to be vulnerable, whether that is here on the podcast or in any conversation, because when we are vulnerable, that gives permissions to others to be vulnerable, to be open, and to be able to actually bring into the light that which was in the darkness. And one of the things that I find so interesting is, and in my own journey as well, and we were talking about this before, how the different techniques or different tools like human design, like astrology, like the Enneagram, that they give us some framework to understand ourselves and to what you were saying, affirming certain aspects of our life and understanding certain things. That if we didn't have that, perhaps we wouldn't self-validate ourselves. And it's really interesting how our mind works with that and how we've been conditioned to believe that we need somehow to be validated, whether that is through amazing tools like this or not. But it's a really interesting thing that we've been conditioned to do.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I love that perspective and that thought. I did learn, like in my chart, there's a lot of inadequacy. Like that is in my conscious sun. The lowest expression of my conscious sun is 48, is inadequacy. So I had a lot of that in my life. You know, I wasn't enough. I didn't know enough. I had to prove myself. I had to do all the things. And then to think of it as a validation, the chart actually gave me the validation. I mean, I did know it already though, because as soon as like I saw, I was like, oh, I knew that. But then it gave me the opportunity to say, okay, well, I really know that now. So now what am I going to do? I'm going to create more impact because I want other people to feel this way. I want other people to step into what they're truly here to be without being afraid, without putting themselves down, without being fearful, without thinking they have to like do all the studying and do all the everything, you know? So I love that perspective though. I never thought of it that way, about being conditioned and having a validation. Very interesting.
And you know, I think in my own journey with that, it's the interesting thing about, especially for me, Tibetan Buddhism was a huge part of my, and is still a huge part of my journey. And in terms of that, I always really appreciated the fact that the teachings or the techniques and the tools are always to recognize that which was already there. It's not that they are external things, and we are drawn and we resonate with that which we already are. And a lot of times that is in our conditioned tendencies, it's what we haven't allowed ourselves to experience, which is the true nature of our being. And then we find that and it's like, yes, like deep down, we already knew that because we already are that, and we needed that external piece to tell us that. And I'm interested if you can share, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that are listening that know what human design is, but there might be a lot that don't know what human design is. So can you share a little bit on human design, like what it is, how does it work, and what would be the beneficial aspect of it for people to work with?
There's so many things that were beneficial. Human design is, I love this because I love traditional wisdom and old wisdom. And I feel like it's important to continue that, bringing that tradition up. And a lot of it is lost if you don't bring in the new modern as part of it. So with human design, it's Western astrology, the Chinese I Ching, the tree of life, the Hindu chakra system, and then it also incorporates quantum mechanics. So it has that traditional, multicultural, like love, deep wisdom, as well as the quantum mechanics. So you can find out your type. There's 5 different types, and what a type is really, it's your energy. What energy do you have consistently, and what energy do you take in from other people and the environment around you. And if you learn more, you'll understand that more. But it really helps you connect with a lot of the things that you struggle with, like what am I here to be? What energy am I here to be? What lessons am I here to learn? How am I best? What is my best way to put myself out there so that I don't feel like I'm pushing or pushy or, not being seen, not being heard? So all of those things come into play when you see your chart. It gives you almost like this tangible evidence of what energy you were born with. Because when you see that, you then recognize, where am I conditioned? Because that's not what I was born with. So it gives you the opportunity to release that conditioning. And depending on how much internal work you've already done, for me personally, when I saw my chart and I was able to see the open centers, which are the white shapes, I was able to say, well, that's not me. So that belief's gone. Whereas a lot of other people would still have to dive in and release and do some breath work or journaling or nature, So it depends on where you are at the journey. But that's another thing I love about it. It's really for everyone at any part. You can go deep into it, or you can just learn your type and strategy, and that will help you alone.
Definitely. And like I have done I have had a reading of my human design chart some time ago, and one of the things for me that I had this with astrology as well, and with the Enneagram when I was younger, how it's approached, it's really important as well, because my mom is an astrologer, so this is like, I'm a little bit biased with that, growing up with that, and I have been learning. I'm actually on the third year of like astrology training now.
Awesome.
And one of the things that I love about this way is the way that I'm learning it, and the way that my mom works with it, is that it's a tool for reflection and for understanding ourselves, and it's not a fixed tool. Yes, the chart, in a sense, it is fixed, but the understanding of it is fluid and depends on where we are in our own path, in our own understanding. And it's why a lot of times when I see some people that they look more into the horoscope, let's say, they're like, oh, I am Taurus, so that means that I'm really, like stubborn in this. And like, well, that is true if it's true, but you can stop being stubborn and just be grounded. And that depends on the level of consciousness. Do you find this as well in human design, that it allows for the understanding of where we are and what do we work with?
Yeah. And some people, I will say, go into the chart and they feel like, okay, this is who I am. And they get almost rigid with it, right? Like they don't move away. They don't internally reflect. They don't feel into it, which is what the human design chart, it really helps you kind of embody things and look inward, like you mentioned, because we're all externally looking for validation. We're all wanting to fit in. We're all wanting to look a certain way, be a certain way. But really the truth is, if we want humanity to align, we have to look within and really connect with who we truly are first. And then there's that foundation. There's that basis of what we are energetically. But then you have the choice of saying, oh, you know what? I have open areas in here. This is how I want to create impact. This is how I want to reach other people. So it gives you the foundation, and it gives you the option to clear off the space and clear off the conditioning. And then it gives you the opportunity to say, what's next? How do I want to use this in a being of service and being empowering and helping humanity? So there are people that do stay stuck in that, but the way that I teach, the way that I layer in, and I love that you do astrology, because I love the astrology aspect of it too. I love that extra layer. I feel like human design has so many layers, and the astrology is part of it, so it's really about taking the little bits and pieces, integrating, practicing, feeling in your body, asking yourself the question. It's not like a one and done type thing. And then as you grow, then you go back to it. Just like the Yoga Sutras. I go back to the Yoga Sutras all the time because I grow and each sutra affects me differently. It's the same way. As you grow and evolve, you can go back and reflect at whatever's showing up for you in that point in time.
Yes, definitely, definitely. I love that. It's been interesting. I had someone last year that asked me, they saw me reading this book, and they're like, "Why are you reading this again? Like, you've read it like 10 times." And I'm like, well, there's always something different because I'm different. I'm noticing something different in this book. And I think that that is part of our understanding as well, that things are not fixed. And just like a book, I can see something different. I can see something different in myself. I can see something different in the people around me. I can see things different in my work or in any situation, just because I am different and what I'm bringing is different. And I always think that that's really important to understand, so that we are not as fixed or stuck in certain ways. And could you share a little bit about the different types that there are in human design, just so that people, perhaps even just by hearing them, they might be like, oh, I think that I might be this or that, and then perhaps explore it actually in reality.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, because sometimes I do that too. I'm like, oh, I wonder if they're a generator. I wonder if they're, you can feel that energy. So there are 5, well, they say there's 4 different types, because the generator types are really a combination of the generator and a manifesting generator. However, there's been a lot of new information about the differences between the generator and the manifesting generator. So I only say there's about 5 types because they're so different. So there's the generator and the manifesting generator, which are basically the bees. If you think of worker bees, we're the worker bees. I'm a manifesting generator. So we like to keep busy. We like to work. When we're inspired, we will work forever. We want to be of service. Like, that is our purpose. We're really here to build and create in the physical form in this life. We have a lot of energy. We make, with the combination of the generator and manifesting generator, we make up about 70% of society. Then there's the projector, who is about 20% of society. And if you think of them, they do not have the sacral, which is the pink square or the white square, the second from the bottom in the chart. And that's where work and life force lives. So that is open for them. So that means they don't have consistent energy there. So they're really here to oversee, to guide. They see other people's energy. And I really love to say it this way. They have so many white shapes in their chart that they're taking in from other people in the environment. So that means they're constantly taking in other people's energy. So they know other people more than they know themselves. So they oversee us generator types because they guide us, because they see overall the bigger picture. Then there's the manifester, who makes up about 90%. They're basically what we're all taught we should be. They're basically, they get to initiate things, they get an idea, they get to move fast, they get to do whatever feels right to them. The thing with them is they can initiate and start the process, but again, they don't have the sacral defined. So that means they borrow the sacral energy. So usually I call them the sprinter. They're really fast, but then they crash. A lot of manifestors I've worked with, the biggest takeaway for them was like, oh, I get to take a nap. Like, I'm allowed to take a nap, because what happens is once they initiate, they take a nap, they then are energized and they can initiate again. And again, us generator types do the work, they initiate. And I'm explaining it this way because it really shows how we're all here to work together. Then we have the reflector, which is 1%. And what that means is they have every single shape in the chart, which is nine centers, white. So that means they are constantly taking in everything from everyone in every place. And if you think of that, they are a mirror to their environment, to the people that they are with. So it's very important for them to be around people that support them, that love them. It's very important to be around nature for them. So important. So they're the mirror. So if you think about it, we have the generator types here to create in the physical form, be of service, support. We have the projectors who oversee everybody's energy, who see the bigger picture and guide us. The manifestors who initiate processes when they are inspired and then need to rest. And also, a lot of the times they don't finish things, and that's okay because that's what we're here to do. And then we have the reflector who is reflecting what's good or what's not good. So if you put all of those in combination, you can really see that if we are in tune with our energy type and we love and support each other for their energy type, then we all thrive. Like the projector, a lot of the time gets really bitter and gets they're called lazy a lot of the time. They may need a lot of self-care. So in our society, that's considered not a good thing. But when you uplift them and let them be the energy they're here to be, guide and support us, we all thrive. We will not thrive if it was just one type over the other. There's no one type that is better than the other. It is all about learning how to work together and supporting one another in each of our roles.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you for that. Yeah, I think that, I usually say to people, and of course this comes from a different lens, but we all are unique. We all bring our own gifts into this world, and all that we are needing to do is to be ourselves. And the fact that our society, in a sense, doesn't allow us to do that. Our society basically wants to get us to everyone do the same thing instead of understanding this co-creation and these different aspects that some people are bringing this certain energy, so they are doing that, and then this other person is bringing that energy, so they are doing that. And there's no better or worse. It's just different energies. And I think that for the majority of the population, we are not allowing ourselves or allowing others to do that because we are judging everyone based on what this modern civilization is telling us, that everyone needs to be working 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, or whatever it is, like that in that style. And that's not for everyone. And I think that is so important for people to be able to use tools like this to be able to recognize what is true for themselves, and then to be able to work from there and to give themselves the permission, as you were saying, that if someone needs to take a nap, go and take that nap. Like, there is nothing wrong with resting. We are in a society that a lot of times, with a lot of the people that I work with, I end up saying, take the day and just chill, like do nothing today. Because doing nothing, we are actually doing a lot. We are allowing our system to reset. We are allowing the parasympathetic nervous system to kick in and to bring a little of that resting space that is required for us to actually function, because we are not meant to be full on the entire time and to get to a point of stress and burnout and overwhelm. And I think that it's really important for people to be able to open themselves to the possibility that the way that they are living might not be the one that serves them the best. And I think that is really important. And I wonder if you can share a little bit on what's the benefit of using tools like this, especially for business or for work. Like, what can people take from there?
Yeah, I love that you asked that too. And I'm the human design experience, we always say experiment. You're experimenting, you're seeing how it feels, you're embodying it. And I'm actually in the process of experimenting with working with someone. I've always been on my own. I have a defined will. I've always pushed through. I was taught to do that. It's everything I've done. I didn't trust anyone. And working with my partner, Annalena, in our academy, has really opened up to me letting her step into her energy when she's in the flow. And when she's not in the flow, I step into my energy. It's like there's no comparison, there's no judgment. If there's triggers that come up, we work through the triggers. If there's a day that we feel tired, there's no judgment and like, oh, you should be doing this. We have a deadline. It's like, go take the day off and go to the beach. Like, there's no pushing through. And we are both 2-4. So we're both 2-4 manifesting generators, which means the way that we best put ourselves out there or feel the best is the 2 is hermiting. So we get to hermit away and be by ourselves. We like a lot of space by ourselves. And then the 4 is through connections, collaborations, networking, meeting people. So what we've done is when we don't feel energetically like we need to put ourselves out there in a way, we hermit away, we hide, we read, we journal, we go for walks, we do our thing. And then when someone calls us out, like if she'll call me out and I respond and I have energy, then we are in the flow and we get everything done. So the reason I kind of share that is because when you work with a team or when you're working with others, and if you know their energy type, you can support them in what they need. You can support them when they don't have the energy. You can support them when they're in their flow. You can support them if they're a projector and they need to have like an extra day off. There's no judgment there. You're able to support them and let them be who they truly are. So within collaborations and connecting, I feel like is the most powerful tool because we constantly judge ourselves, we compete, we don't think we're good enough, we push. But if you're able to connect with your energy and follow what feels good to you, then everybody's happy, everything gets done really quick, really easy. There's no struggle, and then everyone is thriving.
Yes. And as you were sharing that, I thought like this perfectly applies to personal relationships as well. And this is one of the things, and a lot of times with some of the people that I work with, and of course, because I'm not trained in human design, I use other frameworks, but it's understanding your energy, your natal chart, understanding the love languages or whatever framework one wants to use to be able to meet the other one and to have that interaction with understanding of how does their one energy work, how do they need to be talked to, how do they need to interact, how do they deal with the pressures of deadlines or things like that. And it's like from living life, it's so much easier when we actually put ourselves in this is me, this is my energy, communicating that, and then giving people the permission to allow that to be part of the interaction and to interact in a way that the dynamic allows for understanding and to meeting what we actually are and not pushing through, as you were saying, and forcing things.
Yeah, it's a great process in trusting
Definitely.
and supporting, being supported. A lot of us, I mean, at least me personally, I didn't feel supported. So I did what I did to like make it through, right? So opening up to being supported and letting someone support me is scary, And I also wanted to touch on, because you mentioned being ourselves, that's all we need to be. But it's like so many people don't even know who they are.
Yeah.
They think they do, but it's all conditioning. So when you really go inward and feel like what makes you feel good, what are some of these things that you're holding on to, even releasing some of the experiences from your physical body, because we hold all that in too, then you start to connect, like those layers, they say the layers of the onion, then you start to connect and know who you truly are. Because some people, they really don't have an idea. They think they do, but they don't. It's all conditioning.
Yeah, and there's so many, like I usually work with that conditioning, with so many different habitual patterns and limiting beliefs, and those are the things that when one actually works with a framework and then can actually do work and not just, and it's like, oh, I'm a generator, that's it, like it's like, okay, like how can we actually go deep and work on those things that aren't actually allowing ourselves to be ourselves?
Yeah, and that goes to like the mind and the body. We've totally lost connection with our body. Our body tells us, we think that we figure everything out in the mind, and we're not designed to do that. Our body tells us there's a collaboration between the body and the mind. One does not win over the other. So it's trusting the body. If your body doesn't feel good, if you're stressed, if you're sick, you may be successful in your mind, but you're not successful in your body. So something's off. So it's really reconnecting to your body, because we're all in the mind.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And I think that that's something that um, I know for me, it was definitely true. When I was younger, I was living completely in my mind. And all of the tools that I started to get drawn into were the ones that allowed me to come back to my body, to come back to understanding my feelings, to start to be grounded. And once I did all of that, it was like, okay, now I can start to work more with this interaction of body, mind, spirit, or energy. And it's not that one's more important than the other, because they are all part of the one system.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, it's really important, because a lot of times I see in the space, especially on meditation and yoga and some other practices, that it's kind of like emptying the mind, and the mind is kind of like this negative thing. And it's like, no, my mind is amazing. Thank you, mind, for being there and for doing all of the things that are required. And also the body and the
Mm-hmm.
feelings, and also the energy around me, and how to integrate all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we are here on this physical plane, this physical world. So our body is important. Being healthy is important, and being connected with either overthinking in your mind or letting your mind open to receive. That is so important too. It's not letting go of one or the other. And it's funny that you said that, because, as on my path, a lot of the spiritual paths, sometimes a lot of people do get out of the body. They're like way up there. And I was there for a while, and I did not want to get back into my body, but I struggled, and then my body got sick. You need to have that healthy relationship and boundaries and balance
Mhm.
with both, because we are here in this physical world. You can't do one without the other.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you said that, because there's with a lot of people, when I share, it's all about grounding to then open, grounding to then open. Because if we are not grounded, that can take us away. And as you say, like either some people don't come back, or
Mhm.
like actually the body is completely out of alignment. So it's, for me, it's always really important to be able to have that anchor as we want to expand and to explore more. And there was something that you mentioned. So you mentioned this physical plane.
Mhm.
For people that perhaps are not that aware of it, there's another plane. I work a lot with it. That is the quantum.
Mhm.
How do you bring that into the human design framework?
Well, the quantum plane, the way that I bring into that is asking for possibilities. I do have an open ajna, like totally open, no gate activations. So that means I'm the most open-minded you can possibly be. And then I have an open head. So what that means is, like, when I'm out in nature, when I sit, I ask for possibilities. What am I not seeing? And the reason I say that is because, we feel like we have an idea of what we want, but really we don't have an idea what we want. And if we think we know what we want and we focus on that one goal, we're going to attain that. But there's so much more that you are limiting yourself, because you're not opening up your mind to receive those inspirations and ideas from the quantum. So sitting, asking for possibilities, asking for things to show up to you. Like, as a generator type, we respond. So I never use anything above my neck to figure things out. I ask the questions because I'm open. I ask the questions, I receive, and then I respond. And when that happens, things happen for me that I would have never imagined. I can give a quick example. I've been having a lot of back pain for 6 months. Horseback riding, overdoing it, not listening, all that fun stuff. Within that time that I have not been putting myself out there a lot, in this last 5.5, 6 months, I've had numerous people reach out to me for doing masterminds. I've created a new business with a new partner. We've created a certification. All of these things came to me because I was not out there figuring things out. I was asking for things to show up to me and open to the possibilities of what could be.
Yes, that is so beautiful. Like, I mean, I love the combination of working in the different planes or different dimensions, however we want to call it, and to be able to open to the possibilities, to be open to the energy, to be able to create, in a sense, in that space, and then to allow myself to receiving. And as I open myself, the possibilities are A, endless, and B, it's I'm going so much with that flow that a lot of times people ask me, like, how did you end up in New Zealand, or how did you end up like in that place or doing that? And it's like, I was just following the energies.
Mm-hmm. And that's what creates sustainability and ease, really, because you're not trying to make things happen. You're letting yourself open up to possibilities and then responding to what feels good for you. So it's easy. It's natural and it's easy. What used to be considered hard and the struggle just comes to you and it's easy. And then you're like, I don't think I'm working hard enough, because then that conditioning kind of gets back in your head.
I get told that a lot, that, like, for a lot of people, it's like, I'm just hanging out, like I'm with a lot of things, I'm so chill. And people are like, why are you not working? I'm like, well, because the flow is there. Like, as you're saying, people are coming, people, like, are showing up, things are actually flowing. So why would I force anything just because society tells me that I should be doing that? So it takes a lot of, I always say, it takes a lot of courage and self-responsibility to go and forging our own path, even though a lot of people around us might tell us that what we're doing is not normal, it's not right, or like that we are being weird or whatever. It takes a lot of courage to do that, and I usually say that to everyone that I'm working with, because I think that it's important, because it brings the power back into ourselves when we know that, yes, like, I'm on this path, and it takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of will and faith. Those words might be a little bit loaded for some people, but it is that how to be able to go on our own path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because some, like, especially when you first start and stuff too, you get resistance. You get resistance from people that you've known for a long time. You get resistance from your family sometimes, because they don't understand it. They want you safe. But it definitely takes a lot of courage. And when you said that, I just envisioned your chart, because you have every single one of the gates activated. I'm like, you have a lot of courage. Because you have every single one. So to face every single one of the fears and then to do it anyway, you definitely have a lot of courage.
Thank you. It's nice always to know, like, I every once in a while, it's nice as well to get reminders of certain things that I've heard in the past, like when someone read my chart, and I was like, oh yeah. And this was really interesting. And I said this to you before. The first person that did my chart the first time, she told me something wrong. I don't know if she put the information wrong into the system or what, but another friend, when I was telling her, like, oh, I'm a manifesting generator and this and that, and she's like, that's not you. I was like, so do this with someone that actually knows. If you're listening and you want to work with your human design chart, do it with someone that knows what they are talking about, so that actually it's the right one.
Yes, definitely.
And Miranda, I'm curious, as we start to get towards the end of this episode, I usually ask some big questions. Some of them I think that you might have already answered, but what is the one thing that you wish everyone knew?
Well, I'm going to be biased here. I wish everyone knew, honestly, their chart. And it's not just so that they can conform to it. It's because it gives you the opportunity to see what energy you were born with. And then it gives you the opportunity to release the conditioning that you've had in certain areas. And then it gives you the opportunity to then create impact in the way that you're here to create impact, because we really all want to be of service in some way. We really all want to connect. We really don't want to be all materialism. We really want more, but we're so out of alignment. And for humanity, I feel like as long as everyone gets their chart and starts learning a little bit, at least does their strategy, then we'll start to align. So that's what I want.
And as you say that, how can people do that with you? How can people find you and work with you if that's what they are resonating with?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, which is miranda-mitchell.com, and you can click on the button that says get your chart. You enter in your birth date, your birth time, and your birthplace, and then I run your chart specifically by myself, so it's not just generated or anything, to make sure it's accurate. And then I do send a video too on your type and strategy, so that you actually can start embodying it and start doing it. So if you want your chart just to see it, just to see what it looks like and get a little information, and then maybe play around with the strategy, you can go to my website.
Beautiful. And I usually recommend people, because we can all go online and find our chart, whether that is human design, astrology, or anything. The understanding is not that easy. This is why people train in these frameworks. This is why people work with them. And I always recommend people, if you're listening and if you resonate with Miranda, if you resonate with human design, work with someone. Don't just do it by yourself. If you resonate with Miranda, go and work with Miranda. We'll have on the show notes the link so that you can find her easily. But always do things as properly as you can, because as we've been talking, we are conditioned in so many ways, and we won't see the depth that these tools have. So I encourage everyone, if you're listening and if you resonate with this, go and check it out. Go and work with Miranda, because I think that is going to be, as Miranda just said, really beneficial to understand your own energy and how to operate.
And I love that you said that, and about working with someone, because like you said, we have access to all the information. There's books, there's websites, you can find all the information, but it's about little bits and pieces. It's about learning first your type and strategy, and then doing it, practicing it. How does it feel? What do you notice? Then you learn about another layer, which could be then your centers. Where do you have open and defined? So as you learn with someone, you actually get to practice and incorporate it into your life, into your body, so that you start to shift. If you just go and get all the information and fill your brain, read all of it, and don't do any of the work, it is not going to help you at all.
Yes. I always say information is meaningless unless it's integrated and embodied. And until we can do that, it's just, it's information. There's endless information online or on books. So it's about finding that. And I always, for me, what resonates. So thank you so much, Miranda, for taking the time, for sharing with us. I hope that for everyone listening, as I just said, if you resonate with her and her message, go and check it out. Do this work for yourself. And thank you, Miranda, once more for sharing the space with us and for everything that you're doing. So keep on doing that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Beautiful. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.
What did you like the most about this episode? Take a moment to think about what change you can make in your life today.
Share your conscious action on social media using #ConsciousAction and tagging @ConsciousActionNZ so we can celebrate your impact on the world and create a ripple effect.
One easy action we would love for you to take right now is to share, like, and subscribe to this podcast. This will help us get these messages out into the world and inspire more people to take conscious action in their own lives, contributing to the better world we hope for.